Hello everyone, I'm Joshua.
And I'm Abe.
I'm Jay.
I'm Josh too.
Hello everyone, Joshua Myers here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Thor, The Dark World from 2013.
This is war, brother.
Let us begin. We will fight to the last drop of blood.
You might want to hold on to something.
Anyone else?
Thor, The Dark World. Rated PG-13 in 3D and Real D November 8th.
Thor, The Dark World stars Chris Hemsworth, Natalie Portman, Tom Hiddleston, Anthony Hopkins, and is directed by Alan Taylor. The plot of Thor, The Dark World is that Thor fights to restore order across the cosmos, but an ancient race led by the vengeful Malekith returns to plunge the universe back into darkness to defeat an enemy that even Odin and Asgard cannot withstand. Thor sets out on his most dangerous and personal journey yet, forced into an alliance with the treacherous Loki to save not only his people and those he loves, but our universe itself. Now, before I get into my positives and negatives for this film, honestly, I would like to say this is my first time I've ever seen this one. I've now seen all three Thor movies currently. You know, my first one was Thor Ragnarok. I, did enjoy that one. And then I checked to see, then I went to watch the first Thor movie for review, because I was reviewing all the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. So that was one of the next ones on my list. But now I'm on the second one, which I've heard mixed things about. I've heard some people either like this movie. I never once hear people say they absolutely loved this movie, though. But I heard some people either like this movie fine, or just hates this movie. Or it's kind of like in between where, basically it's like they don't hate it. It's not like one of the worst movies they've ever seen, but it's definitely their least favorite of the MCU. Now, where do I fall into that? I guess we'll just see. Let's get on to my positives. I would say it's, shot nice. I mean, I don't think it's nowhere near as good as the first movie as far as the cinematography in that. But, I mean, it's not awful. Also, the effects are still pretty good. Again, still not some of the worst effects I've ever seen. Or anything like that. It's passable. It's okay. Again, definitely not as good as effects in the first Thor movie. Also, when they get to the action sequences, especially the last act, the climax, is really entertaining. They even get some new stuff like this whole, kind of device that could basically, because there's this portal in that, or whatever it is, and they do some fun stuff with, basically teleporting people or things from one place to another. That's honestly kind of really fun in it. And none of the actors do a bad job, I especially liked, I still really like Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston in this movie as Thor and Loki, especially when they were together and having to team up. That was kind of funny, actually. That's where I think the best comedy is when Thor has to, team up with Loki, and then that's where the best comedy was in this movie. So, the funniest stuff is when, they're escaping Asgard, and that Loki is trying to, transform into different people he knows, like Thor knows, including Captain America in one shot. So, that's pretty funny. So, but honestly, those are my only positives. honestly, my negatives are a lot of your guys' negatives. I think, like, here's the thing. In the first movie, I really dug the stuff with Asgard and that, like, the way they shot it and everything, it was like, and the way they, basically did world building with Asgard and the lore and everything like that. That was so interesting. I was like, if they're going to, like, with the next movie, I hope they end up focusing more on Asgard and everything like that. And they do in this one. And, well, they focus on Asgard a little bit. They focus on some of the other worlds, like the Nine Realms and that, like, the Dark World and that, which is what the movie's, title's based on. And honestly, Dark World does not look that interesting whatsoever. It's kind of bored, dull, generic, and just not that pleasing to look at. Maybe that was the point. Maybe, that was the point of the Dark World, but I would have at least done something more visually interesting. You could get it to where it was like, dark, decrepit, and that, and still have it be more visually pleasing, actually. And just interesting to look at. This, like, seriously, just take a look at this. If you were to tell me that this was the Thor movie and this is where they were going to go with it, like, would you consider this visually interesting or, pleasing at all or exciting? No, you wouldn't. At least I didn't. I know other people didn't, so. Not only that, the villain this time around is not that interesting. I much would have rather had Loki as the villain again. But. Yeah, the villain this time around is not interesting. It's this kind of ancient elf and that, which honestly, he does look like kind of like the design of him kind of looked like a reject design from J.J. Abrams' Star Trek movie, which I still have not seen. I'll probably get to those at some point. Well, I've seen Into Darkness and Star Trek Beyond, but I have not seen the first one, so I'll get to those maybe and review those, so, at some point, but anyway, so, yeah, just visually it seemed like so unimaginative, it seemed like they were creatively bankrupt. It seemed like they were creatively bankrupt on that, in this movie. Also, some of the stuff that I felt like wasn't as good in the first movie, but not awful. Where it focused on the human stuff and that, like Natalie Portman, that you get a lot more of that in this movie. And that's a negative too, because it takes the focus away from Thor and that, and makes the whole movie practically about Natalie Portman. And, I mean, again, I think Natalie Portman wasn't bad in the first one, but they're just the characters aren't really that interesting or funny. Like, you have Kat Dennings, basically, I'm sorry, I'm sure she's probably a nice I'm sure she's probably a good actress and other stuff, but here she's just not funny, actually. She wasn't funny in the first Thor movie, but you tolerate it because, you get interactions with Thor and all this stuff. Here, because the fact they take away, like, kind of make Thor less of the focus of the movie and that, you get more of Kat Dennings not being funny in that. And, again, like, I would like to, kind of quote the nostalgia critic, aka Doug Walker, for his Disney December review of this movie. I would really like to quote him on as far as this portion, like, basically, Kat Dennings in this movie is practically the Jar Jar Binks, of Thor: The Dark World. Basically, where all the comedic, relief and that is given to her, and that's it. And I could kind of see that. I totally agree with that. And also, when they do have Thor and Loki team up, that's only like a very short portion of the film, and that's where the best comedy I think was. You know, maybe if they focus on that throughout the whole movie, like Thor and Loki having to team up to defeat this evil and that, it would have been more fun, actually. You know? And if, you know, and if they wanted to do what they did, they could have saved that for the end of the movie, maybe. I don't know. Is it me, or does anybody else feel this way? But this movie, to me, feels like filler. It feels like a filler movie that, you know, was basically made to fill up for the next movie. And also, without getting into spoilers, there's a death of a certain character in this movie who was, I'm not even sure was even in the first movie, but they treat it as if, you know, this character was always there, and that, you know, they don't really try to build any of, like, a emotional connection with the audience in this character. You know, they even throw a funeral scene for this character, and I'm like, I don't even barely know this character. They didn't set this character up properly or anything like that to the point where we are supposed to care. You know, we get to know this person or anything like that. You know, we get to know the connections between this person and some other people. We didn't really got that. You know, and they make it a big deal and everything, and I just would have, just some of the character development in this movie is like, oh. But honestly, I could keep on going on and on with negatives, and we'll be here all day. So with that said, I'm going to get Thor: The Dark World a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Honestly, for me, I would say so far this is the weakest film in the MCU. Now, I don't think it's awful. You know, the reason I'm giving it a 2.5 out of 5 star, you know, is because of the fact it's, like, such a weak movie compared to the rest of the films in the MCU. Like, honestly, for me, I would rather watch films like Captain Marvel over this. And that's saying a lot, because I just thought Captain Marvel was just okay, you know, and this one, while not awful, I don't think it's one of the worst movies ever made or anything like that. That distinction goes to films like Son of the Mask and that, I think. But, yeah, it's definitely the weakest of the MCU for me so far. And, yeah, I mean, not to say there's some stuff I didn't like in it, you know, but, yeah, I would have done stuff a lot differently if I was involved with this movie. Now, I heard the next movie I have to review after this one, at least as far as, you know, with the MCU, is tons better, actually. So, I guess we'll just find out. So that's it for this review. Thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.